Hello from BI Consulting Services. Today we're going to do a video on how to connect to SharePoint file folders inside Power BI. And then we're just going to do what we always do at in the midst of these videos is build out our little report. So I get people who ask me how to do sort of these SharePoint connections, and I thought it would be a good sort of segue to do a video on it and show you guys how to do it the way that I like to do it. So there's more than one way to actually connect to your SharePoint site. There's one way where you can do it through like a parameter. Basically, it builds out this. What you do is you load the data in, and then on the first file, it basically you give it some parameters, and it builds out an example output that is used for every other file or Excel file or CSV file that's inside that folder. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, but essentially what it does is it builds out some logic that is followed every single time, and that's fine. But if you have, let's say you put a ton of different data components out in SharePoint, you may not want to have a parameter set up for every single one because it's really going to make your edit query section huge. So let's say you're a company that puts all of your data in SharePoint. That's sort of that single source repository, and you're going to have all your reports connected into Power BI. You really don't want 100 different parameters built in different file folders and lots of things in edit query that can get confusing. So without further ado, basically the output that you're going to see at the end of this report is something very similar to what you see here. So this sales dashboard is going to show you sales by country, profits over a period in time, sort of unfortunately in the wrong direction, but essentially what you're going to see is by month, the total profits and how that's trending month over month. Here, just the product details and then some sales, profits, and profit percentages, as well as a matrixed table that you can sort of drill down into and better understand how things are performing across different segments within the organization from a product and discount perspective. So without further ado, let's jump right into connecting to a data source in SharePoint. So right here, what you're going to quickly see is I've built out just a private YouTube or SharePoint site, and I've loaded inside of it 3 different Excel files that we're going to connect to all at once and then build out a report on. I think I've opened up more than I need, so yep. All right, let's make sure there's nothing in this Excel file before we get started. Oh, there is. I started on this, so let me delete this one, close, start fresh. All right, perfect. So we're going to go out here and get data. We'll go to SharePoint. We will use the URL for this YouTube SharePoint site that I've created. And once this happens, you're going to have a couple of options. You can just combine and edit, combine and load. Those are the options where it will set a parameter where you basically give Power BI an example and it will follow that same example every single time. But in addition to that, it builds out this parameter. We're going to skip that part. We're going to go to edit. We're going to say remove all other columns but these 2. Then we're going to go add a custom column. So here what you're going to do is basically say bring back the Excel workbook content and in a table format. So once you do that, you can get rid of this column. We no longer need that. We're going to keep this one because we're going to need a source name on these different files. So it's easier just to have those there. From here, we are going to only grab the ones that we know are those years and dates of the data set that we put together. So I have a file 2013 through 14, 15 to 16, 17, 18. And we're going to grab those. And you don't necessarily have to do this step. You could have just kept all of that data in there. You'd have to do some additional filtering, which you're going to have to do either way. But for the sake of this report, I'm just going to exclude the ones that I think are just not needed as a part of the process flow. However, you can keep that. You can do the exact same steps I'm about to show you, and you'll just want to clean your data up a little bit to make sure it's user ready. So from here, we're going to do a very similar process where we remove other columns. We only want to see those two. Once we do that, we're going to hit this load icon. We want to bring in all the columns, so I just make sure it's select all. From here, we're going to do quite a, just a handful of transformations. So we're going to use the first row as header. What that's going to do is bring the column names up to the top. Unfortunately, it does bring out sort of this initial file name. So this financial sample 2017-18 is just one of the files that we're using in this data set. And I'll show you that really quick. If you hit load, we're going to see all three of these files sitting here, which is exactly what we want to see. Now, one thing you do have to do, because we're not doing the parameters, is just make sure that we filter out the other column headers. So basically what happens is for every single Excel file, 2016 to 2015, 2016, and 2013, 2014, the headers will still be stuck in here somewhere. So the headers, what are the headers? Well, it's going to be those things that are named exactly like these are across the top. So segment, country. So if you exclude it for one, you're good. And that's basically going to exclude it from all. And what you will notice is that before we did that, here in the units sold and the manufacturing price, we had a handful of little errors. And those errors were due to the fact that we still had column headers sitting inside your data. You can quickly see that that's now been resolved. All right, so that sums up fixing that and grabbing the data directly from SharePoint. Pretty simple. Not too terribly complex at all. Now let's get to the fun stuff, just building out a quick report. So this is just a great way for you guys to be able to see how simple and easy it is with some basic data to build out a pretty robust report in just a matter of minutes. I follow the same process flow every time. I know it can probably get a little boring. All my reports do not look the exact same, but I really do like the colorblind option that Power BI has just embedded in here. Most of the time when I'm working with clients, I try and just create a theme, and one day maybe we can go through that if you guys are interested. But for the sake of this one, I will go ahead and continue with the colorblind theme that I tend to use when I'm doing these videos. All right, so we will do country. Let's look at sales by country. In this case, we're not going to make it a map that it's defaulted to. We're just going to simply look at it on a chart. All right. So we'll do sales. Then let's look at product. Here's an example of where I'll just start switching some colors around a little bit, just to give some compare and contrast. Don't want everything to look the exact same. Next, let's get a line chart on here. This would be a good segue to look at a calendar. So in the example that I created here, one thing you will notice is that there's a calendar. I basically follow some of the same exact processes for every single calendar I do. Every once in a while I'll get a little bit more spiffy, but for the most part I use this base calendar in almost every report that I do, and it tends to meet most of my needs and most of my clients' needs. There are some more robust ones out there, and if you guys are ever interested in learning more about calendars, or if you want me to go into depth into some things around the calendar functions, let me know. I'm happy to do that, but for the sake of this report, I'm going to use the calendar that I've already built here, and I only want a handful of the columns, honestly, not a ton. I'm going to use month in this particular case, so I'm just going to grab the month and year, and I'm going to toss that into this report. And then I want to be able to sort my month, so I'm going to add just a sort function in here really quick. And that's the only thing I'm going to take for the sake of this, this session. I don't need to take anything else, so let's sort this column by month sort. All right, and let's build a relationship across these two tables. All right, all set. So now we're going to grab this month and we're going to look at a couple of things first. So we're going to first say, okay, let's look at sales across each one of these months. So here you can just see sort of the sales trends month over month. Something else you could do potentially here is look at profit. You can start to see sort of what the trends are from a profit perspective. So there's a handful of ways you can look at this. It can be by profit or by sales, or it could even be a percentage. So you could say, just show me the percentage of profit. Uh-oh, my profit percentage went to the wrong spot. That I can see pretty quickly. Okay, so let's see, let's move this. So profit went to the wrong table. Let's put it in sales. That's the best place for it. And then let's look at this data a little bit differently. So we got profit percentage. So we could just drop that line on here if we wanted to. In this case, we're not going to look at profit percentage on this line. What we are going to look at here, though, is sales. We're going to keep it at sales for now. We'll come back to looking at profit here in just a minute. All right, so I think that looks good. I think we're all set there. And now let's see what else we can look at inside this data set. Let's look at segment. We can actually put together a little bit of a hierarchy. So one thing you will notice here in this report that I've done is I've built out a hierarchy because I want to sort of break down this segment into what I've called a hierarchy. What we're doing is segment, product, and discount band. So just a couple of different things that we can look at as it relates to sales, profit, and then profit percentages just to see how things are going. And so let's go ahead and add that visual into this report. So let's do a hierarchy. So here we're going to do a new hierarchy. We're going to put segment in there. We'll drop product in there. Maybe I should do it this way. We'll drop product in and then just the discount band. Okay, perfect. Now we have this hierarchy built. Beautiful. We'll put this on a matrix. And we'll say we want to see sales. We also want to see profit. And then we just want to see the percentage. And so that we can easily be able to see by each segment, what's the percentage profit? So this is what we sold. What's the profit off those sales? And then if we go in here, we can go ahead and start to make some changes to the data just a little bit. I always forget where we do field formatting. Nope. Not in subtotals. Not in values. Looking for that plus and minus icon that you normally see when you're inside of a matrix. But my eyes are playing tricks on me because I'm unable to see it at the moment. Oh, here we go. So, under row headers. All right, perfect. So, now we have added sort of this ability inside the report, and I'll just quickly show you where you can drill down into this data just a little bit more. So, channel partners, you can quickly see what the percentage the percentage profit is, and then you can see it across each product. Then you can look at the discount bands and the totals across each of those discount bands as well. So when you look at this enterprise level, you can clearly see there's something going on where there's just, clearly not a lot of profit. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and just clean this up just a little bit. And so what was that last visual that we had? And I'll go through and I'll just sort of change this and clean it up just a little bit for you. But the last thing, yep, sales, profit, and profit percentage. So let's take a quick look and just add a report that will have sales, profit. I believe this is by product. And we're going to change this to that. And then we're just going to put the profit percentage on a line so we can look at that. Okay, perfect. So now it's all just about cleaning your data up. So one of the things that I always tell people, and then also, as you're building out reports, one thing that I always like to do, and it's going to be helpful for you, because if you're going to be a business analyst and you're cleaning up data, one thing you're going to find people doing is asking you a ton of questions about stuff like this. So I always like to check my interactions. It just saves me a little bit of Q&A on the back end. But essentially what I want to make sure is that the data is filtering down appropriately. So where possible, we want our data to filter. Sometimes it will highlight. Highlighting's okay in some cases, but more often than not, people want to see the actual results and not see that highlighted because it's not as easy to read or see. So I usually always play with my data to make sure it's interacting the way I want it to. It's kind of one of those important things for me. And it's one of the #1 reasons why people end up using Power BI. So you want to make sure that it's interacting the right way across every single one of your visuals inside the report. And for any reason that it's not, you want to look to try and figure out why. All right, this looks good. Everything's interacting the way I want it to. So now it's on to the fun stuff. So this is the cleanup part, right? You're not going to be doing a ton of stuff after this. It's really just making sure that people can understand the data and it's just easy on the eyes so that you can basically articulate the message that you're trying to get across. I use very standard text and data points. It stays basically the same for the most part. I know eventually I'll change that or I'll shift it around a little bit. Scout's honor, I won't do every single one of the videos in the same exact font or theme. One day we'll go through and we'll just do a theme together as applicable. But yeah, for this one, we're going to keep it clean, crisp, and we're going to slide right through this. And I won't probably finish the whole thing, but I think I'll give you sort of the idea of what it should look like, some of the things I do to clean my data up, how do I get to that end result. I always think that's somewhat helpful for people to see. It's a little bit more difficult to understand how to build out a report if you've not walked through it, exactly. So I'm doing that with you guys here so you can sort of see how do we get to that end output. Nothing worse than when you see like a nice visual at the end of a video, but you don't know exactly how they got to it. So I'm trying to help eliminate the potential questions, and hopefully you'll have good answers at the end of it. All right. We are almost done, guys. I won't bore you with this much longer. This is just going to be one of many videos, so I really would like for you guys to start sharing feedback. These are pretty high level in that I'm assuming that a lot of the folks that are looking at these videos are trying to just get started with Power BI. How do I do some of the basic things inside this tool in the most efficient and effective way? So that's really what I'm trying to do in some of these. But what I also want to be able to do is get your feedback. So feel free to send a message below. My contact information I'll shoot back over to to my website here in just a moment so that you have those details, but feel free to reach out directly on anything you want to be able to see in these videos that would be helpful to you, because these are for you guys. I want to make sure that whatever information I'm sharing, it's helpful, it makes sense, I'm doing it at a pace that's reasonable, and then also if you want to be able to see any of this data, go to my website also. I'll walk you through that process real quick, but I'm happy to share some of this data with you. And I will show you how to do that also. I think we're almost done. I'm almost finalized in the cleaning up the data stage. It may not be exact, but it's going to be relatively close. Yeah, I think that's good. All right, so now what do I do? What do I do to sort of finalize the cleaning up of this data? Someone might ask. So I just make sure everything's lined up. I know it sounds rudimentary, but you always want to make sure you align, your data in a reasonable way, so that folks can see it and understand it. So again, this looks pretty close to the report that I did right here, and you can quickly see how the data is drilling down. I added a couple of filters across the top so that you can look at individual products or look at just a particular country if that's all you're interested in. And then just a slicer so that you can look at specific date ranges as well. So I hope you like this video. Oh, one more thing. Let me show you guys how to reach out to me if you want to get access to this report. So here's my link to my website right here. All I ask that you do is go out to this website, tell me the name of the video, because the name of the video is here, or send me a link directly to the video. Hit this contact us icon and say, hey, I want to be able to access the video that you sent to me. Can you do that? Just send me your contact information. And in addition, after you do that, I will send you a link to the PBIX file and the data set that I used to do this video. If you have any other questions, let me know. And eventually I will probably start putting a lot of these videos on my YouTube page with links. I hadn't gotten there yet. I may make some stuff public on a SharePoint site. Who knows? But in the meantime, best way to do it is go to my website, submit this form here, and I will send you a copy of whatever report it is that we went through in that video that day. So take a look at my other videos if you're interested, submit that information, and I'll get it out to you. Thanks for joining us, and more to come in the future. Bye.